Welcome, pool guys and gals, to the Let's Talk About Pools podcast, where your host, Lauren Broom, will take a splash into many topics in the pool industry to educate all aquatic professionals. Listen in, and you just might be surprised what you'll learn. So let's jump right in.
Welcome, everybody, today to the Let's Talk About Pools podcast, and we hit episode 50. And today I interviewed Timothy Cocaro, CEO of Can I Build? And we're going to talk about technology for pool builders. And I want to say thank you to my sponsors of the podcast today, Skimmer and Blu-ray Etzel. And I want you to listen in to a little special thing from Skimmer. Something special about one of my classes coming up if you're going to the International Pool and Spa Patio Show, and listen in to about Blu-ray Etzel and what they have to offer to pool professionals. I hope you guys really enjoy this episode and all the information that's provided here. Let's jump right in. Hey, my all awesome podcast sponsors. I just wanted to take a minute to share some exciting news. Skimmer has been a long-time sponsor of this podcast, the Let's Talk About Pools podcast, and I'm so thankful for them for that. Thank you so much. And now we're teaming up for an exclusive offer for all of my podcast listeners. Now you can try Skimmer's all-in-one platform for pool service and repair companies free for 30 days. You don't have to take my word for it. With 30,000 users and 4.9 star ratings on Google and Capterra, Skimmer is America's #1 pool service software platform. Skimmer's powerful features give you everything you need to get organized, save time, and grow your business without sacrificing quality. Take advantage of this exclusive offer during this podcast episode today and try Skimmer free for 30 days. Visit getskimmer.com/Lauren Broom. And now let's head into our podcast episode and jump right in. Hey, my awesome podcast sponsors, listeners, everyone. I wanted to bring up that I'm going to be in Las Vegas coming up. Yay! And I wanted to just bring this information about a class I'm teaching in Las Vegas at the International Pool and Spa Patio Show under Watershape University. So we all want to avoid complaints and protect our business. So, hey, pool pros, why not dive into a game-changing opportunity with taking an upcoming Watershape University course with me, Lauren Broom. It's the OSHA 10 and general industry for pool pros. It's going to be at the International Pool and Spa Patio Show in Las Vegas, Nevada on November 10th, which is a Friday, from 1 to 5, and Saturday, November 11th, from 8 to 5. You can go to the International Show website and register for this class under Watershape University courses, or you can email them to get more information about the class at info@watershape.org. So this is not just any class. It is tailored specifically for the pool professional. You will not find anything this specialized with OSHA 10 at other shows. So for employees, what do you get out of this? You gain a deeper understanding of workplace hazards, and you can equip yourself with knowledge on how to avoid these dangers or use other protective measures effectively. For our employers, what do you gain out of this class? You enjoy significant cost savings. Think lower workman compensation rates, fewer disruptions with reduced absenteeism from your employees, and you stay ahead of the game with an in-depth understanding of all the OSHA requirements to nip any potential complaints in the bud. So the nationally approved Pool and Spa Apprenticeship Training Committee, the PSATC, has integrated this OSHA 10 course into their educational curriculum, emphasizing its significance in fostering a safer and compliant pool industry. So why not try to take this class as well? As David Haas, who's the president and chair of PSATC, who has been a previous podcast guest, He stated, having had the opportunity to witness the OSHA 10 course with Lauren Broom over the past 2 years, it is evident that it is an invaluable asset to the pool industry. Lauren's expertise combined with the relevance of the course material ensures that our pool professionals are well equipped to manage workplace hazards and operate safely. So do not miss making your business safer, more compliant, and even more professional by leading the safety training movement in our pool industry. I'm looking forward to seeing you all in Las Vegas, guys. Please take the class. I'd love to meet you all there, and I'm looking forward to being there in a couple of weeks, guys. Very soon, we will all be in Vegas. Thank you so much, guys. And now let's jump into our podcast episode.
Welcome everybody today to my podcast, Let's Talk About Pools. And on my episode today, I have Tim Cocaro, who's the lead founder of Can I Build? And I have Candice Bernstein, who is the Florida sales rep for Can I Build? Welcome today, guys. How are you?
Hello, Lauren.
Hi,
Thank
Lauren.
you for having us.
It's wonderful to finally get together and talk about your company. And you're going to tell us a little bit about you. Tell about yourself, Tim, and then you as well, Candice, and how you got into doing this and this business and this company.
Wonderful.
Yes,
I'll go ahead and
Oh,
start,
there you
Tim,
go.
and then I'll let you take over. We are here introducing a new software technology offered for the first time in Florida that speeds up the sales cycle for pool construction. So we get builders from feasibility to quote to project quicker. And it's my honor to introduce Tim here, our lead founder here at Can I Build, who has years of construction experience and a computer science background that created this technology. And I think Tim's vision was makes things easier, definitely, than spending countless hours on site with feasibility studies and surveyors and running around pulling city and county records. And I think we can all appreciate getting to those projects quicker and to the part that Tim likes the most, the actual building and the pool construction. We are a technology built by builders for builders. So in saying that, Tim, I'll let you take over.
Thanks, Candice. I couldn't have said it better myself. So just to introduce myself properly, I'm Timothy Cocaro, founder of Can I Build? Just to give you a bit of context in terms of the company, we're based out of Bella Vista, which is located in Sydney, Australia. We're probably one of the fastest growing prop tech companies in the world right now, specializing in the space of technology serving pool builders, as well as home builders, AU builders, but of particular interest is definitely pool builders. And we've got many hundreds of clients here in Australia and New Zealand. And we've recently pushed out to California as well as Florida and other parts of the states, including Canada in Ontario. So it's quite an exciting time. Essentially what Can I Build is, it's a client-facing sales application tool, as Candice correctly pointed out, that helps condense the many steps involved in the sales cycle for any builder from a compliance standpoint, from a feasibility and preparing proposals for clients in a quick and efficient manner. Just a bit of background on myself. I've got a computing science degree, but I'm also a builder, which is a very weird interconnect. So somewhere along my career decisions, I must have gone left instead of right. But the fortunate outcome of that sort of mix of experiences, I've got the on the ground understanding of how difficult construction is, as well as the technology background to be able to sort of come up with solutions. So we're really happy to have be here today and speaking with yourself, Lauren, about what Can I Build can do.
And it's wonderful to have you on, because I definitely like to have podcast episodes where we can introduce new software or new companies that will be able to help the pool industry. I want to be that bridge to try to give that information to the industry if they're not aware of it. And that's why I'm extremely pleased to have you on today, because I want to be that bridge. And hopefully somebody listening to the podcast will look you guys up and go, wow, this really could help my business. And if we can do something that will help their business run better, or, get more customers or anything, that ultimately helps somebody in the pool industry. And that we're all a big family here in the pool industry. So it's definitely a positive to be able to have that education out there. And that's what I consider the podcast being, and having companies and people like you on. So thank you very much for being on today. So tell me about how Can I Build came about, and what the software does, and what are the differences between it and some of the other softwares out there that pool builders might be using.
Yeah, definitely. So where the idea came about, so 20 years ago, which feels like yesterday, I was, basically did a computing science degree, but that was the dot-com crash as soon as I finished, which, for those of us that remember how that was. And then basically, given that sort of period, I moved into construction, dabbled into construction. A very short 10 years later, I established a construction company, which is based here in Sydney, which is Rescon Builders, which is a granny flat company. And it quickly became one of the largest granny flat companies in Australia, and by extension, the world, building many hundreds of these type of builds. And through that sort of experience of building on the ground, you can sort of appreciate how difficult it is to sell construction to clients. There's so many moving parts. You have to take surveys, you have to check permits, you have to check rules and regulations just to be able to answer the simple question to a client: can I build a pool in my backyard? Yes or no, hence the name Can I Build. So rather than sort of complaining about it and whinging about it, I started putting my sort of tech background to use again, and started forming the company, which is now Can I Build. One of the other sort of reasons we push this sort of Can I Build concept is I believe that builders get quite a bad rap in the marketplace in terms of, from a client perception, that builders might sort of, be out to sort of make a quick dollar, or not being sort of experts in their field. It's unfortunate there's that kind of perception sometimes in the marketplace, and I think it's unfounded. I think builders have a tremendous amount of sort of difficulty juggling all the requirements to be able to build, pool, be it a pool or a house or anything on a site, and sort of juggle all the compliance requirements. So I'm really hoping that Can I Build can bring back some sanity to some builders in terms of the sales process. Because we all know they work 7 days a week, and they're sending out quotes on Sundays and after hours, just to be able to sort of work during the day, typically, especially if it's a smaller builder, and sort of email at night. So essentially, the idea came about from my own experience on the ground, and genuinely having an interest globally from a construction perspective to just improve things and improve the sales process. So that's where the idea came from. The second part of your question, in terms of how the application compares to others that are in the market, the number one differentiator which differs Can I Build from any other application that's serving pool builders, it's genuinely a sales application tool that's to be used on the field, client facing, via Zoom. It doesn't matter where you are. It's not an application designed to turn builders into architects or draftsmen. It's not to sort of burden them with days long preparation, or using the app to create sort of high-end visual experience. It's not about that. It's basically trying to condense the entire sales process into essentially 5 minutes, to be able to simply ask, what's your address? Check the address, understand the rules and regulations, show how the pool can fit, and have that flowing conversation with a client, without the need of pen and paper or some grid paper, or just scribbling on a piece of paper in terms of what the client's after. So I think that's how we sort of differ from any other product, and the proof is in the traction that we're getting, and we're growing quite rapidly and signing up about 40 to 50 builders per month, which is quite an amazing rate. And we've only just begun, so that's quite quite good.
That is quite amazing. That's neat to hear that you're really helping a lot of those pool builders out there. How many are like outside of Australia?
Yeah, so basically right now we've launched into the United States around February, and since February, out of we've got just shy of right now 1,000 clients all up. About 20% of those are from the United States, so it's obviously a larger market. As much as I love Australia and Sydney, our we try to punch above our weight, but our population is quite small when you compare it to the market size of the US. So it's a much larger market. So we imagine that by the end of this year, the US market will surpass that of Australia. But in the end of the day, speaking to many hundreds of builders, be it in New Zealand, Australia, or the United States, or even Canada, everyone's got the same problems. Everyone's got the same concerns. Everyone's trying to find a solution and really working hard to improve their business. And I really hope that Cano Building in its small way can assist in that process.
Awesome. Awesome. I think we answered this already, but where does Can I Build operate?
Yeah, so it operates globally, and so it works in all the states and territories of Australia. It's agnostic in terms of its functionality works exactly the same regardless of where you are. The system is smart enough with an AI engine in the background to understand where you are geospatially in the world, understands the rules and regulations, and automatically show setbacks or easements or site-specific criteria, whether it's flooding or bushfire, and that may impact the proposal that you have. So globally speaking, for instance, in California, it takes into account things like liquefaction and earthquakes, in Florida, flooding and other aspects. So it does operate regardless of where you're at. We've, in very quick order, been able to extend out to the US and Canada. And obviously there'll be other markets thereafter. But right now, the short answer is Australia, New Zealand, US, and Canada.
Awesome. How can it help the pool builder?
Yeah, so essentially, if you think about the process right now, someone would probably thinking about building a pool, Google pool builders near me, or something like that, and call their local pool builder and basically just ask the question, I'm thinking about building a pool. Now, typically the builder might ask some qualifying questions like, when are you thinking of building, just to see whether this client is actually wanting to build a pool this year or sometime in the future. But essentially what will involve is a site visit. So the builder will have to travel to site. Typically that's unpaid work. This is part of the quoting process. They'll have to go to site. The topography of the land matters, so the builder might have to start taking some levels themselves. Because to pay for a consultant at that stage is unfeasible because they're still quoting, and they have to sit down with the client and try to navigate a quite complex process of rules and regulations. And typically they have to be confined to near their office to understand what those rules are, because they might go to a different city or county and then the rules change again. So essentially how it helps pool builders is, number one, you have the opportunity to do a site visit virtually, and especially with the advent of COVID, this is more prevalent. So you can do a Zoom session similar to what we're doing here now. Share your screen, look at the site, and already get an understanding and show the client that you're building trust and understanding the dynamics of their site, because they can visually see what you're proposing. So number one, you can save on site visits and the travel time. Number two, you can save on some of these consultant costs to be able to answer some of the basic questions in terms of contours and topographies and rules and regulations. So the hope is you're able to do that quicker, shorter, and more of it. And unfortunately, construction's a number game. So if you're able to do more feasibilities and more proposals, by extension, it means you're able to sell more with less. And heaven forbid, builders might be able to turn a larger profit, for the time they invest in building a client a new pool.
Awesome. What kind of data is shown on the software that would be useful for pool builders?
Yeah, so essentially, what Can I Build is a GIS application. So it basically understands geospatially where you are in the world. So we've loaded in quite a few layers. We've got partnerships with um, many of the cities, many of the government data providers. So the layers that we're able to show are things like flood layers, bushfire layers. Um, so when you put in an address, it identifies what specific um, issues may result in a problem in getting that pool approved, or it might impact the construction cost of building that pool. So you're able to sort of use those data layers to give answers to the client to essentially a simple question of, can I build this pool and how much will it cost? And which also reduces the friction of the discussion between the builder and the client. Because if the client's aware of price, they're able to budget, and there's no sort of unexpected sort of budget blowouts or sort of issues down the line. So in terms of the data, there's literally tons of data that we have, but we filtered it down to whatever is specific to a pool builder when building a pool.
And I remember GIS is amazing. That when that started, that was just that was going to explode. And I took like a few classes at the local state college, and that was like, God, 16 years ago. So it's vastly changed. I remember using ArcGIS back in the day. So if they're still around, I'm sure a lot of it is more advanced than what I was learning then, but I basically am understanding what you're talking about here. So GIS, it works off the satellites and location and then layers of information based on using those locations.
100%. It's all about big data. And probably the biggest change over the 16 years since we've looked into GIS the first time is, back then it wouldn't have been considered very sexy, but definitely now it's a very sexy sort of area to be in, and there's quite a lot of interest in GIS. It's basically what's driving driverless cars. It's basically the fundamental pillar to understanding the world in a digital format. So this sort of touches on the digital twin concept as well, where the idea is you can have a digital representation of any site, understand the boundaries, understand the topography without actually having to go to site, and you'll be able to do that from the comfort of in front of your computer. And that's essentially what GIS is all about, and a fundamental pillar of Canada.
Would it pull in like local data? Say if I'll give an example. We're in Florida on the coastline, and you're going to build a pool that is on the beach side. Will it pull in all the information based on how, like dunes and, sand dunes and that kind of thing, so that they know how far away they have to be, or if they have to pull a permit from the state agency in order to build the pool where they want to put it based on sand dunes? I know does it pull that kind of information over too?
Yeah, it pulls out if you're, for instance, in a coastal zone area, where you have to get additional permits. So it won't tell you straight away if you get the permit or not, but it tells you a permit's required. So instantaneously, you're able to sort of advise the client, look, this might take a little bit longer, but step one is to see whether or not we can get the permit in the first place. And then that already solves a lot of heartache, because a lot of builders might spend a few days discussing with a client, only to find out a week later when they go and speak to the city that it's within a coastal zone, and then they first have to do that, which might change the whole plans. And then that's where the friction starts, and the sort of angst and anxiety between clients and builders. So if you know it from the first second that you check the site, that's
I have to say that's a positive. There was a pool, and the reason why I asked is when I did used to work for the as a pool inspector for the health department here. We had a pool on the coast. It was actually being rebuilt. They had a crack through their shell, but they were going to rebuild it, whole new concrete shell. And they didn't know they needed a local permit through the Department of Environmental Protection due to where the pool was located at. with the sand dunes. The pool had been in the ground for 30 years. So rebuilding it, now the rules and locations and stuff are a lot different than 30 years ago. They're not going to be grandfathered in. So there was that probably that friction up front, because that pool builder may not have known that they needed that permit up front. So
100%, and even things as obscure as, say, a heritage overlay or a heritage precinct might have a consequence on whether or not the pool can even be built. So if you know that it's heritage affected, then the first point of call is to check with a heritage consultant as to whether or not the pool can even go ahead, or if there is criteria that's going to sort of impact what type of pool you can build. So these are all the things that, even though they might not happen on every feasibility that you do, a builder definitely remembers the one that affects them, because it probably costs them a lot of time, money, and probably a negative review on Google or Yelp or wherever, where the client may have felt hard done by. But these are these kind of things that's an unfortunate consequence, that the builder is genuinely trying to juggle 100 different things during a sales process that's typically unpaid for. So anything that can sort of condense that cycle and improve the information available at a cost-efficient method is definitely going to be a plus.
Awesome. What have you seen as a change as a result of COVID in the pool industry?
Yeah, so there's been a really good report that came out by the McKinsey Institute that got published in December that's impacting construction and how construction has changed as a result of COVID. And one of the major points that report raised is essentially what's happened as a result of COVID, specifically for the industry of construction, which obviously encompasses pool construction, is that the industry has leapfrogged about 10 years in just the last year. So if you take that into sort of consideration, right now we're in 2021. Right now we would have been in 2031 right now. So it's jumped at 10 years in a technological leap. So construction, unfortunately, has been one of these industries that has been fairly resistant to technological change. And what COVID has done is it's basically forced a mental shift across the whole construction industry. So even some concepts as simple as Zoom, prior to COVID, there would have been a lot of builders that would have never heard of Zoom, never used Zoom, or if they did hear about it, would have basically never used it. And things even like a Zoom session is now commonplace, and that's going to be more and more common. There's going to be more clients that are going to be engaging with builders via Zoom, because neither party might want to sort of have someone on site. In terms of the technological change, it's been dramatic, and I think very few builders around the world fully appreciate what that change is. So builders would stop printing so much and writing on bits of paper. It's going to be digitized. And these are things that are sort of commonplace in other industries, such as finance. But in construction, it's still not uncommon to just see a rolled up plan where it gets rolled out on the table and starts, getting scribbled on in terms of changes. All that's going to dramatically change, and there's going to be a much more focus on digitization of the whole process.
World's moving forward, and you're either going to move with it or you're going to be left behind, right?
100%. That's probably the key point. Like whoever understands how fast technology is changing construction, especially right now, are going to take advantage of it. And those that don't, unfortunately, may either survive or demise as a result. So it is a time where builders will have to sort of reflect on their current processes, what they consider as the norm, and be able to see where technology can just make their lives a little bit easier in terms of
well, it sounds like it could save them some money too, if they don't have to travel everywhere and do everything. And they, with costs and shortages and all the and costs going up, if they can trim in other areas of their budget, that would be helpful as well.
100%. 100%.
Can you give me some examples on how your software is used in other parts of the world?
Yeah, 100%. So I can definitely speak on behalf of how it's being used here in Sydney, Australia. We've got quite a lot of large franchise pool builders that are using Can I Build. One such name is Narellan, which is one of the largest here in Australia. They've got branches in the East Coast in the United States as well. So essentially how pool builders are using Can I Build is many of them are using it on iPads on site just to be able to flick through many different designs that's available. So for example, fiberglass pool builders will have a catalog of designs where they can quickly on site or virtually show how the pool looks, how it's orientated, and engage with the client in a sort of rich format. Also in displays or in offices, a lot of builders have put Can I Build on a large screen on the wall, and that's very engaging because the sort of clients can gravitate to the screen, put in their address, get a 2-month-old high-res image of their site, and already start saying, hey, that's the car I bought last week that's parked on the driveway. It's immediately engaging in that way. And then essentially it builds trust, and they're able to sort of quickly play around with the application in a similar way as playing a game, except you're quickly putting in a pool in your backyard and already sort of having a bit of fun in the process. So probably to answer that question in a summary, they're just using it to have their entire catalog of designs, be able to show those options quickly without the need of a drafts person to sketch it out each and every time, and really bring the clients on with the journey of having their pool built, and it doesn't have to be all caught up in red tape and paperwork, and it can actually be a bit of a fun process as well.
Awesome. Can you show us a little bit of what it does and then describe for our audio listeners what we're seeing on the screen?
All right, quick intermission, my listeners, for intro to our other podcast sponsor, Blu-ray Excel. Please listen in to what they have to offer to all of our listeners and awesome pool professionals out there. Thank you so much, Blu-ray Excel, for helping extend education through the podcast today.
Blu-ray XL is the power of minerals working for you. Reduce your overall chemical costs and labor up to 50% guaranteed. Whether you have 20 accounts or 20,000, Blu-ray XL's direct pricing and free shipping to the pool trade have you covered. Improving pool professionals' profit and work-life balance is what they do. Blu-ray XL, the real mineral purifier. Visit them at BluRayXL.com.
Blu-ray all day.
Yeah, I'd love to. So I'll quickly share my screen now and show you what Can I Build can do. So for your podcast audio listeners, basically what we're presented with is an aerial image showing in high resolution and quite up-to-date imagery, an aerial view of the area that you're looking at right now. We're sort of looking at sunny Miami in Florida. On the left-hand side, you've got a search address bar where you're able to start searching the address of the site that you're proposing a pool on. So this is, I'll just quickly punch in an address and jump to that address. And essentially what we're presented with is an aerial image of a site, say of a potential homeowner that's looking to build a pool on this particular site. So essentially what they're able to see is boundary information, so the width of the lot, the depth of the lot, so you're able to get that information. On the left-hand side, you've got a street preview, as well as site details, legal description, what county, the zoning, the city, land use, etc. So essentially, straight away, you're able to do a few things. You've got a few tabs: design, rules, quote, cart, docs. One of the key ones is design. And this is our demo account, so we can see quite a few different design types, but I'll filter down to pools. And essentially, you're able to sort of see an entire catalog. So if you're a fiberglass pool builder, you can load in all those catalog designs. And essentially, you can click on one of those designs and very quickly position it on site, which is geospatially aware. So it's giving you these dimensional widgets to show the distance to the rear, side, front, and back. The shaded area is also giving you the setbacks in terms of
Is that utility easements and that kind of thing?
correct, and also setbacks from the boundaries, how close you can go to the boundary. And you get a visual cue if you breach that with a red line around it. So basically, you're able to have this flowing discussion as to whether or not and where they want to sort of place this particular pool.
Would the kind of information like septic systems and well locations be pulled up into this kind of information as well? So if they know they need to meet a setback to like a septic tank system or anything like that?
100% it does, and one on this site that'll flare up, and then you've also got water systems, and typically if they're running in the road, you'll be able to see that from junction points, if they have to be sort of connected into, and so you get that information as well. And you've also got the ability to click on the contour lines, which basically prepares which shows you the topography of the site, so you can see what the slope of the site is. You can then even click on the tool that shows you the levels of the pool. So you're able to see this is quite flat, so you can see that the entire pool is level. So without even actually going onto site, you already can indicate to a client in terms of site cost or how much excavation might have to be done. So you're able to do that straight away, and you're able to showcase both in an architectural format or an aerial format how you want to present the site. In terms of the rules itself, you're able to click on the rules tab and start seeing some of these zoning checks, setback checks. So even if you breach a setback, it gives you which one you're breaching and by how much. So you can have that sort of flowing conversation with the client as to what's permissible and what's not. And then you're able to start doing some quite interesting things like generating architectural style site plan by simply ordering it. It's a zero cost item. I'll explain what the amounts are as well. But you're able to sort of generate flyers, architectural plans, and things like that. So even if I generated a flyer as an example and click order and agree, basically you're able to sort of generate these things on the fly. Quickly download the example, open that up, and then you've got a flyer example that you've generated for that particular site, which includes cost, etc. You're also able to do things like generate quotes. So you might have your base price of the pool design, and then you're able to sort of very quickly add items, miscellaneous type of items.
Equipment and different things like that.
100%, and then simply click get quote, and in a very similar way to the flyer, you're able to generate a quote, and then you've got that quote, click download, open it up, it opens up a stylized quote, which is branded logo to your company colors, has the description of the pool, description of the items that you've added, the sections, subsections, the grand totals, and essentially you've generated a quote, a flyer, a site plan in under a few minutes. And typically this will take a few days or a few back and forth in terms of being able to produce something like that. So it's quite exciting to be able to do something like that very quickly and very efficiently. Just to sort of jump around and sort of show other areas, basically it's just as simple as putting up another address and then moving on to the next job and start seeing how the next job might sort of look. Do another feasibility, and you haven't sort of stepped foot outside the office, so you're able to do quite a few like that. Just these are examples that we've got in Florida, but just to load up some other examples, say in California, which works in exactly the same way. If I put in the California address, we're now in California, and then you're able to start seeing here on the left-hand side. This site is affected by bushfire, coastal zone, flood. So you instantaneously know what the issues are affecting this particular property. The other nice thing about, say, using this particular property, if you've got a site that is quite sloping and quite hilly in terms of its terrain, you're able to see those topography lines now, which are in 1 feet intervals. And you're able to do that without, again, having to take any measurement on site. And to be able to do this for a site like this will take quite a long time. And then again, you're able to sort of quickly filter down to your pool design and pick a pool, position the pool, place it on site, and then check the levels in terms of how that, the site costs. So here you can see over the course of this build area, it's a 3-foot fall from one end to the pool and the other. So that means it's going to be about 3 feet of excavation that might have to be done to create a level pad. So these are the type of things that a client, a builder might suggest a better location for the pool to mitigate cost and sort of work with the client as to what their options are. And then you're able to sort of quickly go to cart, click site plan as an example, order a site plan, agree to that, and generate an architectural style site plan. So that takes about 30 seconds, and basically you're replacing a week long waiting for an architect to draw something up, and in 30 seconds this will be generated. While that's generating, I'll sort of touch on the other things that you're able to do. You're able to produce full-fledged architectural drawings for the submission into city and council. So rather than waiting 2-3 weeks for that to be done, that takes simply 1 day to produce, because the bulk of the work is being auto-generated. So that's quite impressive. Or you can simply download an architectural CAD file instantaneously in order for you to start producing some plans yourself.
Wow.
So we've generated the site plan. We can download that in much the same way we generated a quote. And there you've got an architectural style site plan that's produced. You've got your context, and then you've got your zoomed in views. So these are all the things that sort of build trust with a client, and they're basically being able to do that very quickly without having to spend hours producing this type of material. So we're very excited to be able to produce this for our clients. One of the other things I want to sort of show, these examples that I've presented are very relevant to fiberglass pool companies. But say you're going to do a concrete pool, you've also got options to be able to very quickly draw up a mud map of what kind of pool shape a client might be interested in. So say you wanted to do something custom, you're able to produce something like this, which is basically a pool shape, create the coping, create like coloring, and then start modifying that pool design in terms of what the client might actually want. So they might say, look, I want the pool to be of this kind of size or this kind of shape. And you're able to start doing some quite architectural type options by simply clicking one side and having geometric shapes as well. So it's not just all curved. And very quickly you can say, is this the type of shape you want? Is this the type of orientation? And then basically start quoting from there. So it gives you areas, perimeters for the pool, and then you can factor that into your quote and produce it. But it's doing it in a very visual way where a client might say, no, that's not what I want, or can you please sort of rotate it a bit? Can you sort of position it in a different place? Or can you start again? And these are all the things that by just showing a client visually what their pool is going to look like in just a few clicks, being able to generate site plans not only builds trust, but it condenses the entire sales cycle, because you don't have to refer back to a draftsperson or architect to produce a sketch, only to show the client, and then the client might say, hey, can you shift it a bit here? Can you change it a bit here? And that takes days and weeks of back and forth. You're able to have that discussion very quickly and showcase 20 options in just 2 minutes. So it's quite intuitive in that respect. So and it's designed to be simple. So construction builders that want to use it, the training's quite simple. We don't charge for training. We don't charge for setup. It's quite simple to sort of get on and start using from the day you sign up.
Well, and I can see what you mean. You can get on a Zoom with your client and just do all this with them, and you can change the shape. If they don't like the shape right then and there while you're on Zoom with them, they're going to go, I don't like that corner down there. I want it rounded out. Like, on the pool that you drew there, that pointy corner. They can say, I don't want that pointy corner, round it out more. There you go. And then you can fix it. And then they'll go, oh yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about.
Exactly. And just those simple conversations, it's amazing how how much time you save on that, because there's nothing worse when a builder spends a couple of days drafting up a pool design, sending it to a client, and then the client instantaneously says, "No, that's not what I was talking about." And the builder says, "Yeah, it was. You specifically said this, this, and this." But when the client sees the end result, they can now visualize it, and then they now have different ideas or changes that they want to make, and this back and forth makes it quite sort of complex. So what Can I Build's not trying to become is a drafting tool. It's meant to be genuinely a sales tool where you can get these specifications. And you can do annotations as well and say client, wants surrounding decking for the pool or landscaping. You're able to start showing that sort of landscaped area as well. So you're able to sort of mark out an area and start showing that, making that transparent, and then basically showing, is that what you wanted? Is that your pool fence area? Let's start looking at that. Let's just adding that to the quote, because you're able to get square meterage, perimeters. You can start feeding that into fence lines, gates, things like that. So, and then a client might say, hey, this is getting away from me. It's reached $100,000. I was hoping to do a pool under $50,000 or 30 or 20 or whatever it might be. And even just that simple feedback instantaneously saves weeks of effort and time. So the builder's able to react to that information and respond accordingly. But given the tennis court on this particular site, I'm sure they've got the budget to pay for whatever pool we suggest. But you can get the idea that it's a quite simple and straightforward method of showcasing options and selling quicker.
So how can our audience find you guys and find out more about your company and how to contact you?
Well, Candice is definitely ready and willing to sort of take calls, but one point of call will be to visit our website, which is www.canibuild.com. You're also able to contact us by email. You can email us anytime. It's sales@canibuild.com. And I'm sure Candice is,
Yes,
willing
and
sort of,
right here in Florida, you can call me anytime. My phone number here is 689-202-3169.
Awesome.
And I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm everywhere. So definitely come and find me.
Well, it's been wonderful having you guys on today. It's very neat to have visually seen this and to be able to bridge the education to the industry. And hopefully somebody listening will go, oh, that may help me with my business. That's the whole goal today with this podcast episode.
100%. And I really appreciate the sort of time you've given us to sort of showcase what our application can do, and you're doing amazing efforts within the pool industry. So I'm really grateful and sort of humbled by the opportunity.
Thank you so much. I just want to make sure that I bring things out there that the industry may not be aware is there. That's and then they decide if it's for them or not. That's
100%.
all it is. I'm not saying you got to run out and do it, guys. Just giving you the information.
Well, thank you, Lauren.
Thank you, Candice and Tim, for being on today on Let's Talk About Pools.
Thank you, Laura.
Wonderful. Thank you.
No
Take
problem.
care.
You guys have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for diving in today with the Let's Talk About Pools podcast. Be sure to follow us on our YouTube channel or our Facebook page. And feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts so more aquatic professionals like you can learn about the show. We appreciate it, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the Let's Talk About Pools podcast.